This is really about being free to create what you want your life to look like. We each are our own hero. And how do we take the challenges that come our way and see those as the birth process of us becoming heroic? Can you meet that judgment that ultimately will surface with neutrality?
This is the Wall Street Coach Podcast with Kim and Curtin.
Welcome back to the Wall Street Coach Podcast with me, Kim and Curtin, and Lucas Peterson. Today's going to be a pretty interesting day. We're going to introduce you to some of the coaches on the Wall Street Coach team, which Lucas, first off, is one of our team members.
Yeah, if we haven't gone over that.
We haven't gone over that.
I think maybe you're the first time I came on, but yeah.
Did we? Good. Okay, that's good. That's good. So tell people what you coach people on when you coach under the Wall Street Coach.
I primarily coach traders, and mostly we coach on the emotional side of trading. And a lot of people want to talk about the technical side, but I find that most of the time you can find that information out on YouTube or reading technical analysis. And really it's the emotions are what's going to get you in the way. And so that's the hardest part that I found in my journey as a trader. And it is hard to be wrong, but you have to be okay being wrong with trading to be successful. That's what I found out. So. And
how long have you been trading for?
I've actively trading about 5 years. I've been in the markets. I think I've said this before, but I started investing probably a little over a decade ago now, and was just holding, big company positions, like Apple and Visa, and just watching them kind of grind up slowly. And then I started doing more research around people making a lot more money, making what I was making in a year in the markets in, a week. And it's like, I want to do that. So, but you can also lose more if you're not willing to,
yes, you are.
Obey the rules.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So 5 years actively.
Yeah. And I still primarily swing trade, and it's more part-time than full-time, but that's because I enjoy doing this too.
That's right. That's right. Well, I think all the coaches on this team, it's an eclectic bunch of people. Everybody has kind of their sweet spot. But there are certain things that whether, from the beginning of the coaching practice, when the brand obviously is the Wall Street Coach. So we've had a tendency to work more often than not with those in the finance world, be it traders or C-suite level executives. But we've also worked with interior design firms. We've worked with architect firms. We've worked with audio production companies. We've worked with the healthcare industry and pharmaceutical. So I've always described our firm as industry agnostic, because at the end of the day, what people are dealing with, the challenges that come up in work, whether you're a trader or you're just working in a company or you're an entrepreneur, are going to be the same patterns that show up. So it's, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And, the biggest, I think, quality that I want to speak to about the coaches that we're going to meet today, and you and me, is that all of the people that are on my team are coaches that, in my experience, have done work on themselves. And that, when I first started to put coaches together, that was the most important question. Yes, I wanted to know that they had training, that perhaps they got certified, but more important than those two qualities was, did they seem to be self-aware? Did they seem to be people who did work on themselves? And if they hadn't, it didn't matter to me, all the rest, because I knew that they had not probably been wrestling with their own dragons in a way, and therefore weren't going to really be the best person to accompany somebody on the journey.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I remember listening to one of your podcasts with Joseph Aldo. Is that his name?
Yes.
And you guys talking about like going into the dark night of the soul, and it's like that is, if you're not willing to go there, I don't think you can recommend other people going there.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So the first coach you guys are going to meet, in addition to Lucas today, which most of you are getting to know through this podcast, is Jim Persing, who we're going to bring into the conversation now.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hello there. Hello there, Lucas. It's good to see you. And Kim,
You
always
too.
a pleasure, my friend. What's happening?
Aloha. It's so good to see you, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. I just described a little bit about the Wall Street Coach and how I consider us ultimately industry agnostic, because we feel that whether you are a trader, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business executive, ultimately you're going to run into similar challenges internally, externally. And so, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself? And what I'm going to say before that is Jim has been on, he is the first team member that I ever brought on. And that is now, I want to say, what is that, Jim? 10, 11 years ago?
Yeah, that's about right. I tried to think back and looked at my calendar a little bit. I'm going to say it's at least 10 years, if not a shade longer than that.
Yep. And Jim and I both were certified through the certified through CTI, and we both are ICF certified. But I am trying to remember how we met originally. Did we meet?
You put out an RFP, I think, through the ICF.
Okay,
and I responded to that, and we connected. And then you had a get together over in New York with maybe a half dozen or 8 people, and I came over to that.
Yes, you did. Yeah. And we've worked together for a long time now with clients. And Jim, I can't even tell you like how much I appreciate you and your flexibility with like my clients and their crazy schedules. And, you know, whoever came in and I could put Jim in front of them, and you know, everybody loves you. So I want you to talk about just kind of the kind of client that you enjoy working with. And because a lot of the audience that listen to us are traders, how you have worked with traders in the past, and, you know, just your style of coaching. Let them get to know you a little bit.
That's fine. I'm glad to do that. You know, I can't, like I saw you had Matthew McConaughey, and I'm like, are you sure she wants me to do this? This is obviously a step down in the process.
No, it's not. Yeah. No, it's
all
not, Jim.
All right. Yeah.
all right. It's everybody's a little worried about that now. Everybody that comes on, we had another
there's
friend
an
of ours,
obvious
right?
hole in the schedule, so they called me. But yeah.
Jim, you're one of my favorite people. So honestly, I'm honored to have you on here before, during, or after McConaughey, anybody else.
Well, that was super cool, and it was a great interview. Yeah.
Thank you. We had a lot of fun. Good guy, good man. I was really impressed with how gracious he was to Lucas and I. And, you know, I was talking to, I think it was Ray, actually, Luke, because we had Ray on our podcast the other day, a good friend of both of ours now. And he, you know, we just said, like, we really seem to be inviting people that are very down to earth and very authentic. So it's just
authentic's a fantastic word. And I'm, you know, for you guys to attract the people like that, I think is right on target. And, you know, again, even in a humble way, I feel that's one of the greatest strengths that I've got. Is I can talk to people at all, you know, in all stations, at all levels of experience. And, you know, it's something I'm very passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you just tell everybody about your journey, how you became a coach, why you became a coach?
Well, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years. And over those 20 years, I've learned a ton about sort of where I was before that and where I am in this journey. And, you know, my original profession after I got out of college, I went to law school, practiced law for about 10 years. And the part that I really enjoyed about that was dealing with people. Mm. And I valued the fact that people would come to me, that they felt I could listen, and we could start to talk about solutions to really specific problems that they had or really specific goals that they had. But I really didn't like the combative aspect of, you know, going to court and all those kind of things. So, you know, I'd read some articles about coaching and thought that really seemed to target and harness a lot of the strengths that I thought I had in terms of my ability to communicate and interact and engage people, and problem solve in a different way, right? Get people to see how they really could become a better version of themselves, and how to work together to set goals, and how to take those goals and then act on them, right? Build a solution, and then stay accountable to that. And I think, that's sort of the 3 steps that I've developed over time is, let's talk about where are you now, where you want to go, and what it's going to take to get there. But then I think most importantly, how to stay there, because people have always set plans. Everybody's good at coming up with an idea and coming up with a plan, but it's how to take it off the dining room table, right? Like people they have their papers all laid out on their table and they have their plan, but they don't really then execute on it. And I think that's, one of the key things that I've found that coaching can help with.
For sure. Well, when you've worked with, I know you've worked with traders in the past, what was it that you coached them on?
Well, I've, built up my own knowledge of finance and trading over the years. So I feel really comfortable talking about it and, sort of living in that world. And honestly, one of the things that I've seen come up stems from my work in the wellness field. So I'm also certified as a wellness coach. And when I talk to wellness clients or people who specifically want to change and impact their own health, and I got into some of this out of my own health challenges, some cancer that I was dealing with and some personal health issues. But I felt that people did not address this personally, right? Like they weren't taking it seriously enough. So in wellness, I see 3 legs to the stool. I see nutrition, exercise, and emotions. And I think that translates over to trading and finance by saying we've got knowledge, right? Like you have to have knowledge of the platform, knowledge of industry, the actual financial knowledge. You have to have the focus. You have to know what you want to accomplish and how you're going to be, determined to get there. But then I think there's that resilience piece, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the emotional piece. How do you sustain resilience over time? And that's one thing that I've worked on with traders is, are they focused on staying resilient? Are they taking the right steps to use that knowledge in the most effective and efficient way?
Yeah. I think the resilience is a huge piece of it, regardless of whether you're a sophisticated trader or a new trader, is how do you navigate keeping that resilience going? And what do you feel, what are the tools that you've used in the past that seem to be the tools that help the clients get resilient?
I think one of the things is to just step back and, number one, do sort of an analysis of where are you right now, right? I mean, the trading world lends itself to the go-go world of, like I've got to sit here with a pot of coffee and work an 18-hour day. Yeah. And I think that's part of the difference between working longer and harder and working smarter. So I think part of resilience is stepping back and saying, am I as effective right now personally as I could be? And if not, what do I have to do? And for some people, it's honestly as simple as, let me figure out what my best and most effective routine is every day.
Yeah.
I had a client who lives out on the West Coast, and one of the first things that we did, and he's an attorney who now is a trader, and one of the first things we did was have him send me a picture of what his space looked like his trading space. Yeah. And it looked almost like a cyclone had blown through there. So we worked on let's just get the space cleaned up, and let's just get some organization brought to it. And then when you jump into the chair in the morning, you're not going to be overwhelmed by what's around you, right? The peripheral noise is taken away, and we have the ability then to focus on what specifically you want to accomplish out of that trading day. Yeah.
Yeah. And, just by way of you personally, tell us where you live and kind of just your own, how do you navigate all that you navigate every day when you jump into your chair, just so people have a sense of your personality and where you live and your family and, just a little bit about you.
Yeah. Thank you. So I am in what I'm going to call North Central Pennsylvania. So I am, my wife and I live here. We're both from around this area. Bucknell University is a stone's throw here on the East Coast. Many people might be familiar with that.
Yeah.
And we are 3 hours from both our kids. Our son lives in Manhattan and works for a London-based consulting firm. And our daughter is 3 hours to the south in DC. She works in the political world. So my wife is a nurse and vice president of a hospital. So we always say, like, the kids sort of got my genes in terms of the non-medical, non-scientific stuff, but they certainly have her drive in terms of what they do. Both kids rejected sort of the science route, but in terms of their drive and motivation, I think that's more aligned with my wife. But I always think I have to set my day up in just the right way. So I get up very, very early. I get up at 5 every morning, regardless pretty much of the day. And those first 20 minutes of my day are sort of my own time to have some time spiritually, to have some time reading the news, just glancing at certain websites that I like to look at, and just going through my calendar and making sure that I know what's going to happen, what I want to have happen, and maybe, if I have to take any steps to get there.
Yep.
I think a lot of life is about expectations. I think you have to realize what you expect to happen, and are your actions aligned with your expectations. So I try to every day make sure that I just spend a couple minutes centering myself, grounding myself, and making sure that I can see that my actions are going to align with my expectations.
That's really beautiful, Jim. I've never heard that said quite like that before, that our expectations, we have to be conscious of them for us to potentially create them. And or do we even want to create those expectations? Like, are they even in the realm of reality? Is what I'm realizing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a terrific coaching point too, because people will come to coaching and they'll have expectations. A trader will say, my goal is, $1 million a day or something like that. And maybe down the road, right? Like, we don't want to squelch people's ambition.
Right.
We also want to ground it in reality. And let's say, it's going to be a journey. And, you've talked for many years about the hero's journey, and that's always been something that stuck with me. And, that's what I found in my own life, right? Like, life is a journey. And I think my kids have probably tired of me talking about patience over the year because, they want, right, they're at the age where, like, they want it and they want it now and it's right here. But I think hopefully one positive thing they've learned is, that they've got to have a little degree of patience. And it's a long race, and you've got to plan for that length.
Yep.
So
for sure.
I love living here in a very rural part of the state. We've got great access though to a bunch of cities 2 and 3 hours away, and it really does help keep me grounded in terms of being able to deal with business clients and personal clients all over the world. I do government work. I work with some clients in the developing countries. So I hear a lot of fabulous stories about people all over the world. And I think that helps me to have a broad perspective and be able to help clients even more effectively.
Yeah. I have to say, the concept of being in the country, Jim, I couldn't relate to prior to moving to Hawaii. As you know, I haven't been in New York City for so long, but I'll tell you, it makes a difference being in a more rural area. I have seen a change in myself. I still have a ways to go, but there is a grounding that happens, a stillness that happens being in a less populated area that is it's pretty wonderful. I feel really lucky. And I've always heard you talk about it. I couldn't relate to it until I could.
Right. And again, it's wonderful to, in the midst of an afternoon, say, look, I'm just going to step outside and like take a 20-minute walk. And I can get to a fairly rural place in 15 minutes where there's no houses or anything. Yeah. And even if I don't go that far, it's just to get outside, take a deep breath and, run into some neighbors or whatever. And just center yourself a little bit. And I think, that's a challenge of our time. And I think we've particularly seen that in the last year is events can control your life, right? So you've
Yeah.
got to try to flip that and say, what can I do to take control of the events around me? And how can I use outside resources, including coaching, to get on top of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's what I always think is it's a similar philosophy is we don't make our habits make us. And it's kind of the same thing. What do you tell clients who maybe live like myself, who lives in Los Angeles, where, it takes a bit to get out. And now I live kind of strategically close to an area where I can get up into the mountains pretty easily.
Okay.
But what would you tell somebody who, lives in New York? Like, what are some ways that you found work well for grounding?
And I've talked to our son about this, right? Because he's up in northern Manhattan, up in Harlem, and it's not easy to sort of get out and get any place rural. There is a park near him, and I'm assuming you've got, Lucas, a little bit of green space near you. Mm-hmm. But I think it's like the old thing that you can make your environment almost anywhere you are, right? So we've heard these stories, and I don't even purport to be in this same class of people who have had tremendous challenges in their lives, but they've been able inside themselves to separate themselves from that environment, right? Like whether it's an abusive environment or an economically challenged environment, or even something like we're talking about here where, I'd love to be outside, but I'm just not geographically positioned. It's try to figure out what in that idea resonates with you. Like, I just want to close my eyes and get away for a few minutes. And I think that can happen, regardless of where you are, even if you can't physically get out there. Like, I consider it a blessing that I can get out. Kim, you're like a new convert here where you see what it's like to get out. You're not uptown in the Bronx like the sign behind you here, but you're actually out. But, Lucas, again, just, take a little time and just, sort of close your eyes and be somewhere else. And then when you are actually somewhere else, it becomes that much sweeter to actually experience that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Jim, thank you. Thank you for giving us some of your time today. I wanted the listeners to just get to know you a little bit and your kitty cat. What's the kitty cat's name?
That's Bernice.
Bernice
was when we bought our home 20 years ago. The original owners lived here, and they had lived here 60 years, and they were both in their mid-90s, and her name was Bernice. So we thought Bernice had to continue to live at the house. So when we got our kitty,
That's brilliant. Yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah. I think what this pandemic has done, if nothing else, is it's gotten people much more comfortable with animals and children as part of the phone calls. Remember that newscaster before the pandemic who was like with the UK and his kids right at the room, and the mother's like dragging the kids out. Right. Like that was so hysterical at the time, but now we see that every day.
Well, I think it humanizes, and we talked about authenticity earlier on.
Yeah.
And we are authentic people, and we want to bring that out. I think it helps us relate to each other even more because everybody's got something in their life that interrupts them, whether it's a kid or a cat or the phone or whatever.
Correct.
And, we can all be a little more ourselves. I think it's a terrific new environment.
Yes, yeah. I'm with you. I think that's been the silver lining. Is just that we've all shown we can't help but show our humanity now. We can't help but show the rest of our household to the rest of our circumstances. And how does that not encourage connection between people? Because nobody's got it all, buttoned down in a Tiffany blue box. Like shit happens, And when you see like you're not the only one, I feel it helps you feel a little bit less isolated and a little bit more like, oh, they're struggling with XYZ too,
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jim. It's so good to see you. And
thank you both very much. I appreciate the opportunity here, and we'll stay connected here.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll have a catch-up call soon, you and I, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thanks
Aloha
a lot.
for
Thanks,
now.
Lucas.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
So I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to meet Jim Persing in person. As we talked about, I've known him a long time. He's an amazing coach. He's worked with so many clients here at the Wall Street Coach. He's worked with them in person in New York City, which is where most of our clients came from before I moved to Hawaii. But he's also worked virtually with clients all over the globe. I've, set him up with clients that worked remotely in other countries. So yeah, he's a pretty special person, incredibly effective at what he does. All the clients I've ever had him work with loved him. And I'm so glad you guys got to meet formally, by video now. So
yeah, I love Jim. He's so kind. He's like the nicest person every time I talk to him. He always just like follows up with a thank you. And he's like just classically kind.
Classic old school kind of human being.
Yeah,
for sure. And his coaching, because I think part of what I heard clients say is, his kindness and his ability to be empathetic because of that, the way he coached them surprised them. At how hardcore he was. So really? I think they thought, like a couple of times they thought, this guy, he won't be so hard on me. But his sense of holding you accountable is so sharp. And people will be like, I didn't expect that from him. I was like, yeah, he's full of lots of secrets.
I could see that with some of the conversations we've had around just like the way that it seems like he's a very disciplined person and and sees how that works for people or at least
and
for
how
himself.
It doesn't.
Exactly. And how it doesn't. And so it's like, if you want this,
that's
I can
right.
see that.
He's going to hold your feet to the fire. But I think his, that sense of camaraderie that he elicits with people so easily, is part of his strength, because then people think, I could be relaxing. And then they're like, whoa, this guy is going to still kind of pull the leash if I'm not doing what I said or claimed I wanted to in my coaching, which is the case, I think, with all the coaches over the years that I've met. You think you're going to get this, but like even my friends, I tell them, if on occasion I'll have a girlfriend or, a guy friend will say to me, I want you to coach me on this, as opposed to just be their friend about it. And I'm like, are you sure you want that? Because the way I show up as a coach is very different than the way I show up as a friend. And sometimes, if they're in dire straits, they'll be like, yes, I want you to coach me. And I'm like, okay, put your seatbelts on.
I think I might have told you this a while back, but a few months ago, I had a friend who basically said the same thing to me. It's like, okay, if you're sure. And then he was like, okay, I get it now. I'm not, I don't.
And I think I'm done with it.
Yeah. He thought I was just going to be the friend who was always just like, yeah, man,
Yeah,
it is. But that's I think what like good coaches do. We are, we are friends and we are empathetic and we want you to, but then we can also, that's why you pay coaches and you don't just talk to your friends, because a coach will be like, I see what it is. And probably the people around you see what it is too. And you just can't see it because you're in that forest. And that's one of the hardest parts.
And I don't think we want our loved ones, to give us the hard truth 24/7.
That would be awful.
You're sleeping in a bed when somebody's giving you a hard truth. No, thank you.
Constantly.
I broke up with one boyfriend who gave me a hard truth once, and in the bedroom. And I was like, this is not the time nor the place.
See ya.
See ya. But I'm paying coaches over the years to give me hard truth.
Yeah.
But you just want a different experience from a boyfriend or girlfriend or parent or sibling.
Yeah.
You just do.
And you need that. Yeah.
You do. You do. I have one good friend, Christine. I'll give her a shout out. I had done, when I did, I'm a proselytizer. When I get into something and I'm excited about it, I am going to talk about it and rave about it and try to enroll people. And I had done Landmark Forum, and she, after the course, she knew I was so happy and excited about it. But she just sat me down very serious one day and just kind of took me by the shoulders and was like, I don't want to hear one word about that course that you just finished that you're all excited about. Don't even try to talk me into it, because I just don't want to hear it, Kim. And I know how you get when you get excited about something. And I was like, she was like, are you hearing me? Like, she was 2 inches from my face. Like, I'm not kidding you. And I was just like, okay, I promise. She's like, promise. I was like, I promise. And I didn't say one word for like 3 months. But the magic part of the story is 3 months later, she's like, all right, what the hell was that thing? Because you are so different. I have to do this now. And I was like, you told me to promise. Are you sure I can break it now? And she was like, yes. So it just goes to show you, your friends want you to be their friend, not their coach. So
exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So today we also have Antonios. Antonios is going to come and join us, and Antonios and I also know each other a very long time. I think 6 years at least. He'll confirm it for us when he comes into the call. But he and I met when he was living in Dubai. We met in New York City. His mother-in-law actually heard me on a radio show in New York and reached out to me and said, you know, I have an amazing son-in-law who's also a CTI coach, which is the Coaches Training Institute, training curriculum he had gone through. And she said, I would love for him to reach out and you guys get to know each other. Is that okay? And I was like, sure. And Antonios is also just salt of the earth, incredibly diverse experience in the Middle East. He's just had extraordinary opportunities. And I just feel really fortunate to have him on the team because of his experience, because of his background, and because of his heart, and because of the work he's done on himself. You know, Jim as well. Like, all of the coaches on this team have done work on themselves. And that to me is the differentiator of all the coaching firms, you know, I have looked at over the years as my, you know, in the sense they are one way a competitor. And what I have always felt is our cutting edge is that we have coaches on this team that have really been diligent about doing the work on themselves and to get themselves to a place where they can really be a contribution to somebody else. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to Antonios.
Let's jump into it.
Okay. Welcome to the podcast. It's very good to have you. We're doing good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Awesome. I was excited all day knowing that I'm going to see you tonight.
Okay, good. I'm so glad. It was so fun to have you on Instagram Live the other day.
Me too. I was like, I got so excited afterwards.
I'm so happy.
I saw the interaction with some of the participants. Then it was like, that's cool. I want some of this.
Yes, exactly.
So when Lucas contacted me, would you like to be part of? Yes.
Well, good. I just want our listeners to get to know you and for them to connect to you, because ultimately everybody that comes to the Wall Street Coach needs to find the coach that best suits them. And I want, them to have an opportunity to get to know each of you individually, because everybody on the team is very unique and has their own personality, Antonios. And I want them to get to know you personally. So why don't you just, I explained a little bit about how your mother-in-law heard me on that radio interview and reached out to me. Then just, but I want people to know who you are, how you got into coaching. Feel free to just, wax on about any of the above.
Great. Full name is Antonio El-Achkar. Where do I start? You already said how we met, and I always believe that I always remember few chats into our conversation, and I realized that we both did the CTI program, which for me was like, no wonder why we're like both seeking the same values to connect. And CTI was a turning point for me, that coaching training. I got into coaching initially because when I was doing my MBA, I realized that investing in the human capital is the biggest investment. We mentioned that the other day, is the biggest investment a corporation or an individual can have. Okay. Warren Buffett, the other day, I was listening to one of his speeches. They asked him, what's the best investment you recommend for people who are just starting their career? And he told them, let them invest in themselves. Let them have better communication skills. That will double their values in no time.
Wow.
Nothing will give you that return in one workshop. Right?
Yeah.
And I thought, so I got this. Of course, I got it before Warren Buffett. I knew it before.
That's why you're on the team.
Yeah, exactly. So I realized this in the MBA program, where companies, startups that are aiming for 10x or 20x or 50x, the most important part of the business plan, even the VCs, when they're evaluating them, the venture capitalists, when they're evaluating them, they look at the team, how they gel together, how their synergies are, what do they bring to the table, how is their experience relevant to the startup. Okay. And because the human capital is leads to, like, there is a saying in entrepreneurship, A grade idea with a B grade team is likely to fail. A B grade idea with an A grade team is likely to succeed. So it's not about the ideas, it's about the people that are behind it.
Yeah.
And out of that, when I realized this, I was like, okay, I want to be a leader in that, not follow like, oh, okay, how can I crunch some numbers and make a better decision in finance? Because there are already a lot of people doing that. I was like, what is the best way to maximize on that huge potential? And I looked at doing assessment tests. I looked at studying workplace psychology. I had done this in my other masters that I've done before. And then I realized I came across several coaches, and they told me, have you tried coaching? I was like, I had never heard about it before. And I started doing exercises, etc., with even the small exercise that you were doing with our peers. Yeah. And I loved it. I loved the impact that it gives, the result that comes out of it. I was like, that is something. And I would leave these even like 5-minute triads feeling like, wow, something shifted. Even with these like mock examples, something shifted within me. And I knew that this is something that's beyond passions, like my calling. Yeah. And I went for it. As soon as I came back to Dubai, I found the institution that was the most reputable around me, and that was CTI. Went for it. And of course, I keep on, like every coach, I keep on upgrading my skills, learning new systems, new models, new theories. I get coached all the time. I just finished getting coached like a couple of hours ago. Wow. And in the morning, I was coaching someone. In the afternoon, I was getting coached. And now I'm talking about coaching.
It's a lot of coaching in your day. It's a lot of coaching. Tell us your style of coaching. We have a lot of traders that listen to this podcast. We also have a lot of people who are not in trading probably who listen to this podcast. I think we have an eclectic audience, probably all interested in the world of finance, investing, but I think most are traders. So what is the style that you yourself have or the vibe? And tell us a little bit, what a trader could expect if they ever did say they wanted to work with you.
Okay, great. So what I appreciate about what you did is you gave me the energy. So we designed the relationship of who am I talking to? Where should I come from? And that's how I start my style, by designing the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that each one is on their own journey. Mm-hmm. No two people are coming from the same place. The coaches that I hire for myself are not the coaches that I hire for, or that my wife hires for herself, or that my brother hires, even though like I have a business going on with my brother and we're like kind of in the same boat. The place where he is in his career is like completely different where I am. So I start by designing this relationship with which something that a permission that is so simple and so powerful at the same time. Okay, agreeing with someone else, like, okay, let's make this something for us. Let's shed all the assumptions of what a coach and coachee relationship should be, and let's design it together. Okay. A simple example about this is I used to get in taxis, and I used to hate how they drove. Okay, they used to annoy me by how hesitant they are, that they want to go faster and then they slow down, etc. And I realized before coaching, I had it was just frustration for me. And then when the first day of coaching, when I realized that designing the relationship is something in my power, this is something I can be proactive about. The first taxi I got into, I was like, can I ask you something? Is it okay if you keep a steady foot on the accelerator? You don't go faster and slower. He was like, yeah, sure. I was going faster. Like, he was trying to get me to my place faster, so he would rush wherever he could. So he thought that I want that, and I wanted it. And we were like two boats sailing in the night. And so as soon as we communicated that, we found like a common platform. My ride was more comfortable. He was not under stress. And it was something like hidden, as you say in Arabic, hidden with an onion peel, you know?
Yes.
And this is how I start my relationship with the coaching. This is my first step into my style. The first stage into how I coach. Then we dig deep. We start with the foundation. I do not do quick fixes. I do not go like, okay, what's your target? How do you want to? I know there are a lot of people that like I'm not gonna name the model, the goal approach. You know, this is your target. And you are here. Well, what do you need to do to get there? I need to do 1, 2, 3. Okay. What is blocking you? 1, 2, 3. How are you going to change these 1, 2, 3? I will do this. Okay, great. That's your coaching for today, and it's done. When I saw these models, like kind of like, I like to work, not criticizing them. It works for some people who are impatient. At the same time, when someone is impatient, it means they are running away from something, or they're running away towards something without seeing really, without like doing the work, okay? The infrastructure for themselves.
Yes.
And even though sometimes I work with CEOs that are impatient, like, I need this done today, I'm stuck, and okay, we go back. We start working with the foundations, working on the values, aligning, creating. I heard one of your podcasts, you were saying the future self, okay? Or we call it the captain, like creating these toolbox. And then as they go along, when I'm learning about them and they're learning about themselves and about my style. And we create that toolbox together. So whenever they come back in a third, the fourth session, it's anyone that would walk into that session, they would not understand 70% of what is being said, because these are tools unique to that we created together to that client.
Yep.
And they start bringing them out, and I see the client walking into before they used to walk into the room, now they walk into the Zoom call. And I take few seconds to connect to their energy, so my intuition is in line with theirs.
Yeah.
And then okay, what are we working with today? This. And my work at that point would be so simple as tell them, so you know the methodology. Which tool do you want to use? Which tool serves you? And like, I want to process that feeling because I'm stuck. Like, okay, so let's process it. What are you avoiding? And we dig deep into that. Or I want to change my perspective on this because I'm stuck in the same perspective and doesn't help me. Or they'll tell me, and these are for those who did the coaching system, that are familiar with the coaching system. These are the main pillars of the system. One is processing feelings. Second is having the power of choosing your perspective and not vice versa. Not letting the external environment impose the lens with which you see the world. And the other one is like, I need a decision to make. I'm hesitating. Why are you hesitating? Because I do not feel that I'm in line with that decision is not in line with my values. Yeah. Okay. So it's values, perspective, and processing, or something that is, around the synergy that they're creating. So we work with these aspects. Of course, some people I use sometimes. I'm not against a certain model. I just have my preference. Yeah. I'm saying I'm not against certain models because sometimes I use an NLP model. Yeah. Okay. Because that at that moment in time, that will serve the client more. Yeah. Sometimes I use strength coaching, and I know, for example, I noticed that they're not working within their their
competencies.
Their competencies. There is I forgot the name of the triangle. Let's call it the competency triangle, or the skill triangle. Yep. And I tell them, okay, so how do we design your work around that? I work with them around that, and that serves them at that moment in time. Yeah. That's my model in a nutshell. And
that's awesome. That's awesome. It's great to just hear you describe it. It's a little bigger than a nutshell, but I get the point. I get the point. Yeah. Because at the heart of the matter, it's a complex template, but your willingness to use it in the best interest of the client, or take them through whatever that template is for what they're in need of in that moment, and or in need of in that engagement. And that's what I'm hearing you describe. So it's great. It's great to take a window. It's like giving people, a little tour of what they could expect with you, which is what I really wanted them to get with you today, just to get a feel. So, my ideal is if you're willing to come in, sometimes to the Instagram chat room, then we can have you coach. Lucas was very wonderful and technologically savvy to find out that you could come in the room too. So we can do a little speed coaching for those participants that are, visiting us there on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, so. I would love to. I saw some of the chats, and one thing that we love to see, I'm sure, as a coach you do too, it's like, oh, there is a repetitive pattern here. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like,
Yeah. When people realize it, they're like, oh, yeah.
Yes.
I see that now. But
So,
having that
you
witness changes everything, because you
Yeah.
see it then in a new way.
I see it, and you know how you walk into a house and you smell like, hey, this is barbecue. And you like, Drew, like, I know this. I know how to I know how to jump in. Like, I know everything about barbecue. It will taste great with this, and put the ketchup and the mustard on top.
Yeah.
This is how I feel like walking into these chat rooms. Like, yeah.
I know this scent.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the air.
And I think that's what I heard from the way you described your coaching. It's like you, with every person, it's going to be different. And I think we have to be aware of that when we go into those conversations. And that's what it sounds like. You know, you walk into that house or that conversation, you're like, this is the meal we're serving right now. And so you have all these different things you can bring to that meal. And
that's right. Certain utensils, certain extra napkins.
Different
if it's barbecue,
wines.
different wines. Absolutely. And Tony, so let people know just a little bit about, who you are personally, where you live now. We mentioned briefly that when we first met, you were in Dubai, but that you still work with a lot of, Middle East clients. Just so people have a sense of you personally, your family, your sense.
I originally am from Lebanon. And did all my career until 2 years ago. Spent it all in Dubai. So the city grew from one main highway with few towers, sprinkled along the way, to seeing it the metropolis that it's become. And lived in Dubai for 6 years, got a sabbatical for a year, and then came back to Dubai, continued my professional career there. While I was there, got married, got 2 kids, and I 2 kids. If I would look at the parts of my life that were life-changing, one of them I said it's the coaching. The other one would be becoming a father. And yes, becoming a father changes a lot. At the same time, it allowed me to get in touch, to gain a bandwidth in terms of my emotions, and like to get in touch with the child in me, so I can talk to my child at the same level, and then in a split second become the father who needs to put structure.
Yeah.
Okay. In coaches, one of the main resources that we have, and in trainings like they work on us a lot, is expanding that bandwidth, expanding your range in being, to be able to mirror and connect to the client's psychology or emotions wherever they are. If they are in the abyss, you cannot be like, okay, tell me whenever you come up to the surface. I can't go there. Okay. If they're in the abyss, you're like, okay, hold on, you're in the abyss. I'm putting my snorkels on and diving deeper than you. It's like, if you're in the abyss, you'll find me a little bit lower than you on the energy level.
That's right.
So if you're not there with them, you can't do it. And being a father, I think, helped me grow that my range exponentially.
Wow.
Few years ago, 2 years ago exactly, actually, in 1 week it would be 2 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
We decided as a family we needed a different type of challenge. We needed to grow in a different place, so that we get different perspective, different environment. We decided to move from Dubai to Madrid, Spain. I've been here for 2 years. I still work with a lot of people in Middle East and India, and sometimes with people from Singapore. I have a business in Africa where I keep on traveling back and forth. I represent some companies from Europe in Africa, so I'm going around Europe, and sometimes I different projects that take me different places. My role in all of these, if I want to summarize it, is I work with everyone, whether in the business aspect or when I'm coaching. I work with everyone to take them to the next stage of their career, of their life, of their professional life, etc. Okay. So what's next? Okay, we know what got you here.
Yep.
Now it's time to say thank you to whatever got you here, and we're gonna get you next to the next stage.
It's awesome. This is great. It looks like I'll be going to South Africa in September, so we'll have to have a conversation to see if there's any crossover when you'll be visiting. But you're usually not in South Africa, you're usually in North and West Africa, right?
I'm in West and Central Africa.
In Central, okay.
Nigeria, Congo, Ivory Coast, Ghana.
Yeah.
You should pass by one of these countries. I think you would like Ivory Coast, for example.
I have no doubt I would. I have some really, one of my closest friends is from Senegal. I have another good friend who's from Ghana. I have a lot of people in my life from all over the world, and I'm very lucky because it's helped me just get, a window, not even a window, but maybe just a, tiny pinhole view into a whole nother way of life and a whole nother culture. And like you said, Antonio's, the more perspectives we have as coaches, the better. So I have no doubt I would love all of Africa. I've wanted to go there since I'm 22 years old. So I'm very excited about this trip. But I'll definitely be talking to you for some tips and tricks because I know you travel there so often. Well, thank you for today. I'm so grateful that you came on. I'm so grateful that the listeners get an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. And I can't, say enough good things about Antonio's in all of our, is it 8 years, 6 years? I can't remember. 7 years we know each other. How long is it now?
I feel like I've known you since forever.
We've had some incredible journeys together already.
Yes, and thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey, and thank you for being part of my journey.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, my friend, we'll see each other soon, I'm sure, either on Zoom or on WhatsApp. And thank you for coming in, or on Instagram Live. We have to get you in there to do some speed coaching for those wonderful people. We have a great little community coming in on Tuesdays and Thursdays now.
I would love to. I would love to. And thank you for inviting.
You're so welcome. So welcome. All right, be well.
Thank you, Lucas.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
See you.
All right, be well. All right, well, I'm so glad that we had a chance for the listeners to meet Antonio's and Jim and you, Lucas. We talked to you at the beginning, so and that's not even. You're always here, but still, we don't talk about you as a coach. No, I doubt they are. I doubt they are. But I think that the heart of why I want everybody to meet everybody on the team is because I think there's a temperament and or a personality to everybody that you have to, it's like a dance partner. Are you in rhythm with each other? Are you in sync? And I think, we mentioned this too briefly, you and I, when we were talking about, you have to be, there's certain coaches in your life that take you to one level, and then another kind of coach that may take you to the next level. You were talking about that.
It reminds me of when we had Howard Lindzen on, and he was talking about coaching, like meeting you, and he was like, he had gone through multiple coaches, and he said, like, you might go through 10 coaches before you find the one that's like actually going to help you, because
that's right.
Everybody's different, and everybody is going to, like you said, it's like a dance partner. And if, one dance partner might serve you for a while when you're learning the waltz, but when you go to do, I don't know what
break dancing.
Yeah, break dancing.
I used to dance at a Broadway dance company in New York City.
You used to break dance?
I didn't do break dancing. I did jazz hands. But Broadway Dance Center was, it was probably the most famous school in New York City for professional dancers. So there was like 6 floors of dancing happening. And I would do, my jazz class, which was probably, there'd be 25, 30 dancers. Some were Broadway dancers. Some were like me, just doing it for fun. But, you could go from that class, and then when that class ended, it was, a huge dance studio with really cool, beautiful floorboards, wood floorboards, walls of mirror, walls of bars, for the ballet dancers, and for jazz. Like any kind of dancer, you're going to use the bars to like help stretch and prepare. But to instantly be in this class with this vibe, and as soon as that class changed, bam, and we would have so many. It was break dancing, but they didn't call it break dancing. It was called street dancing, and the street dancers would come in, and the whole vibe and the energy of the room, go right. Like it would be a different vibe for jazz, different vibe for ballet people, different vibe for street dancing. Which was taking off at the time. But I was like, oh, wow, I can't keep up with that shit. They're like on the floor, spinning around on their heads. I was like, but it was the coolest thing.
I'm still imagining that you did it somehow.
Okay.
That's I just want to see that.
we would just like stand. It was a really narrow hallway, and we would all crowd around the door, and everybody be like, 14 people trying to look at a door, watching them, because they were phenomenal. And half of them probably were, in Rent and all the different Broadway shows at the time that were using them. So these people, like, they look like they had been dancing since they were children, and they probably had. They were just such professionals. But that vibe, you're going to need to have a different coach for different periods of your life. And because I'm so proud of all of you coaches and the diversity of the personalities and temperaments and styles, I feel like let everybody see everybody. So you can say, okay, we want to work with somebody at the Wall Street Coach. Who's the person that's going to be the right dance partner for me in that journey? So anyway.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Awesome. This was awesome. It's so good having them on.
It's just, I feel so lucky that these are the people that have come to this firm. And, there's a lot of coaches over the years that I've met, and not to say that they aren't great coaches, but I just knew they weren't a fit for my organization. So I guess I just want to say this as well to the listeners. I've been very picky about the coaches that are on this team. There are lots of coaches out there who have lots of credentials and lots of experience, but there was just this special sweet sauce or secret sauce that I just have known if somebody had it or not. And those who didn't have it, I really had no issue saying, I don't think we're the team for you. And that's why I think I can get so jazzed up talking to them, as you do too, because everybody here has that secret sauce.
Yeah.
They just do. It's the X factor. Yeah. It's the X factor.
And we're gonna have Samantha and Jason on
yes, we are.
In a future episode. So
yes, yep, absolutely.
Looking forward to that as well.
We gave you a lot today, people, to digest. An 8-course meal.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so thank you, Lucas. Thanks for organizing it and getting them all on here today. With all the time zones we've got going on, you and I, we're like the internet. We should have the international clock on our watches.
Yeah, we really should. Yeah, I got to take
Oh
down
my
all these
goodness.
pictures and put up clocks. That would help
Yeah,
me.
exactly. This is what it is in South Africa. This is what it is in Madrid, Dubai, San Francisco, Hawaii. Oh my goodness. But you know what? It gets easier over time. After a while, you start to know all the time zones almost by heart. All right. So we'll see you on the next episode of the Wall Street Coach podcast. Thank you for listening to us today. Please let us know what you think of this episode. Did you like this conversation? Do you want to hear more of like what happens in coaching? Please leave us comments in YouTube. We read them. We listen to them. We try to, follow what you guys want us to talk about. And if and only if you like what we are talking about here and you have the patience and wherewithal to leave us a testimonial on Apple iTunes, that would really come in handy. Even the likes on our YouTube videos make a difference. Comments always help with that magical algorithm that they have. So please show us the love if you feel the love. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. We'll see you next time on the Wall Street Coach. Until then, a hui ho.
This has been the Wall Street Coach Podcast with Kim-Ann Curtin. You can find out more about her and her team online at thewallstreetcoach.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. Thank you for listening.